All right, One-Eyed Jack's here, and I'm going to do something different in this video. We're going to look at the architecture, and if you're ever wondering how I'm figuring all this stuff out, it probably seems like I'm just pulling it out of thin air when you watch the videos. But actually, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to figure this stuff out. And in this particular video, we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the architecture. And in this case, we're going to be looking at holidays. And Kubrick uses the holidays over and over. And I don't have all the holidays figured out yet. But I have enough here to show you that none of this is accidental. And like I said before, these things are planned like chess moves. 10, 12, 30 moves, 100 moves ahead. He's that good.
Well, that'll all depend on the school vacations and all that sort of thing. But if we can, we will. Well, that'll all depend on the school vacations and all that sort of thing. But if we can, we will. Well, that'll all depend on the school vacations and all that sort of thing. But if we can, we will.
And let me give you an audio. Here's an audio one that will illustrate what I'm talking about when I say holidays.
Yeah, about to explain that our season here runs from May 15th to October 30th. Then we close down completely until the following May.
So the first day at the Overlook Hotel is October 31st, which of course is Halloween Day. So there's one of your first holiday clues. So let's go to the top of this. Before we even get into the holidays, we've already been clued into when we see 2001: A Space Odyssey and we see the Christopher Clavius base. Christopher Clavius is the man that establishes the first Gregorian calendar with leap year based on the new Copernican model, which would be the heliocentric model, the Apollo-centric model, the sun-centered, in 1582. And this is the same year that they come up with the Mercator projection, which is the same globe that you had in your classroom when you were in fourth grade or third grade, whatever grade they had a globe in your classroom. It was the Mercator projection. So that projection was created in 1582, right? So in 1582, there were no hot air balloons, there were no airplanes. I think they had probably a compass, and a sailing ship, and they came out with this amazing Mercator projection. And now it's 2017, and what projection are on the globes that are in the classrooms? Oh, it's the Mercator projection from 1582. So we haven't become any more accurate in our modeling of the globe, which is ridiculous. And then you find out that there's a Peters projection from 1972, which is said to be way more accurate than the Mercator projection. But the Peters projection is never adopted. It's kept under wraps. Nobody really wants to talk about it. So we're talking about Christopher Clavius establishes the Gregorian calendar with leap year. So it's one small step, one giant leap. So we're clued into dates before we even are given the dates. We're already given the man that establishes the calendar that everyone uses, and it happens in 1582. And Christopher Clavius he's wrapped right in with the Jesuits. There's no doubt about this. This whole thing was done like a chess move. They had to get the globe in your mind. So this happens. So now we know that we got the guy that establishes the calendar. Okay, this is the Clavius base in 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is where Dr. Floyd goes. Or no, this is where he tells his friends, "Oh, where are you guys? You guys headed up or down?" "Oh, we're going home." And they say, "Where are you going, Dr. Floyd?" And he says, "Oh, I'm headed to Clavius." And they're like, "Oh, Clavius." So Clavius is the man that establishes the Gregorian calendar. And of course, he goes to the Tycho magnetic anomaly, which is in the Tycho crater, which is the largest crater on the moon. So it's always with Kubrick, it's always Jungian archetypes. Who was the first man that landed? Who was the first man to the South Pole? Who was the best at this or the best at that? So we have the Clavius Gregorian calendar. So let's highlight that. So some of the clues that we're looking for the Gregorian calendar, one of the really good ones, and I like it because it really ties in so well, is Azizi Johari. She's the woman with the ball hair, the afro ball hair in Scatman's bedroom. he has a pair of them. They're both Playboy bunnies, but this is only, well, I'm only going to talk about one of them right now. And her name is Azizi Johari. And she's a Playboy bunny. She's on in the poster. It's called Supernatural Dream. That's on Scatman's wall. So like I said before, in Kubrick's puzzle language, if it's mirrored, it's a clue. So you have a mirrored Playboy models with huge ball-shaped afros. So she fits the Playboy bunny. It's one small step, one giant leap. Well, bunnies leap, and the moon astronauts did the bunny hop on the moon, and they did the kangaroo hop, and they did all these ridiculous hopping and jumping, and so it fits in there. And she's a bunny, so we have Jackson hares. We have Dorian Harewood, and a hare is a female rabbit, and you have Jack Nicholson, so you have Jackson hares. You have Jack Kennedy. You have all these clues into bunnies and their genders. So when Jack goes to the Overlook, Barry Nelson comes out to meet him. He's reading a New Year's Day edition of Playgirl, not Playboy, Playgirl. So we're given a clue into Playboy and Playgirl, their magazine, and obviously part of the clue is when Kubrick does interviews with Playboy and Playgirl, they're very alchemical. Just like when Kubrick does interviews with Rolling Stone magazine, they're alchemical. And he does, what was the other one? He worked for Look magazine as well. So his Look magazine pictures are very alchemical as well. So, all right, I'm getting off track here, but Azizi Johari, she's a Playboy bunny. She's born on the 236th day of the year. But the movie The Shining came out in 1980. So 1980 was a leap year. What a coincidence that the movies were released on a leap year. I mean, that's, not that rare, but it's released on a leap year. So in 1980, Azizi Johari would have turned, or her birthday would have been on the 237th day of the year. So we have room 237. And of course, 1980 was a leap year. So we have another connection to the Gregorian calendar, leap year, the 237th day of the year. This has become more apparent why this is an issue. If you notice when you watch the movie, the door to room 236, we see it for a split second before Danny goes into room 237, and we see the door of room 236 is a little bit open. It's like 2 inches open, and it was closed right before that. Now it's very hard to see. You really need a Blu-ray to see it. But you can see room 236 is partially open, and as he goes into room 237. So it's kind of telling you, okay, it's a leap year, room 236 is closed, you're now going to room 237. The other thing that's interesting about it is if you know, and this is the amount of analysis that has gone into the movie The Shining is just amazing, but when they modeled it in 3D, they realized that the room 236 can't exist, because if you opened the door and you went through it, you would fall into the lobby of the front of the hotel. So even though we see a room 236 number on the door right across from room 237, room 236 can't exist because it's only 3 feet thick. So it's it's like a room that doesn't. It's bizarre. So there are spatially impossible rooms. If you go to Barry Nelson's office, he has the theater curtains on the sides of his impossible window. His office is in the dead center of the hotel, so there's no way Barry Nelson can have a window to the outside, and we see the laurel bushes outside the window. And of course his double eagle, bronze eagles disappear. But so he has an impossible window. So here we have an impossible room that can't really exist spatially with the hotel. And it probably sounds ridiculous for me to say this, but there are numerous people that have done spatial analysis on The Shining and noted that Kubrick intentionally created spatially impossible rooms and spatially impossible windows. So Barry Nelson's window is framed with theater curtains, and he looks like Kennedy. So we could say, well, Kennedy, we choose to go to the moon and do the other things. Kennedy was the Apollo president, and he has theater curtains. So Apollo was a theater. So we're using theaters. Lincoln dies in Ford's theater. Kennedy is a theater. Corona is a theater. So there's a theme that goes through Kubrick's puzzle of theater names, and so we have Ford's Theater, Lincoln Theater, Kennedy Theater, and of course the Apollo Theater, which is a very famous theater in New York. So let's go on. So that's Azizi Johari. She's a connection into the Gregorian calendar. Neil Armstrong shares a birthday with Vivian Kubrick. She's born the 217th day of the year. She gets a call on the Bell video phone on her birthday. There's another birthday clue. In 2001: A Space Odyssey, Frank Poole gets a pre-recorded birthday video call. In 2001: A Space Odyssey, another birthday call. So he's repeating he's repeating which things he's using as clues, and he's doing it. He's beating you over the head with the Bone Club, with the birthday clue. So Frank Poole gets a pre-recorded birthday call from his parents. And at the end of the call, they say his father says, "See you next Wednesday," which makes no freaking sense because he's halfway to Jupiter. He's not going to see him next Wednesday, and he never sees him at all because they're pre-recorded videotapes. So the "See you next Wednesday" thing just doesn't make sense. So it ends up becoming an unmade movie that no one ever makes. Sort of like Kubrick's unmade movie category, where he didn't make Napoleon and he didn't make Swing Under the Nazis. So we have another. This would be a thread. This would be like a thread to other movies like John Landis and yada yada yada. We have the poster scene behind Jamie Lee Curtis, who's born on the day Kennedy is born, November 22nd. So the Bell video phone. Remember, this puzzle always works on the first. So when was the first time the Bell video phone was seen? It was at the 1964 World's Fair, which opens on Earth Day, which is a holiday. So we've got Vivian Kubrick's birthday, Frank Poole birthday, the Bell video phone twice. We see it in 2001: A Space Odyssey. The first time it's ever seen is at the 1964 World's Fair, which opens on April 22nd, Earth Day. April 22nd is the birthday of the Mustang and the Ford Falcon, the first unibody vehicles. So these are the first, once again, I didn't even put that in here. I'm getting sloppy. So the first unibody cars are the Mustang and the Falcon, Ford Falcon. They're sister cars. They share the 289. So if you look at the azimuthal equidistant map, you have 24 segments, and there's 12. They're divided into 12. So you end up with 288 pie wedges, slices. Now, just like the 32 pie slices of the UN map, they both have a bullseye. So the 32 pie slices plus a bullseye is 33. The 288 pie slices plus the one bullseye of the azimuthal equidistant map is 289. And of course, the Ford Mustang and the Falcon were both powered by the 289. So Ford is another theme, and I don't even repeat it anymore because I just assume everyone knows it. But in Huxley's Brave New World, they worship our Ford, and they worship the Ford Model T car. You have Bill Harford. It's just like our Ford. You have the Ford's theaters where where Lincoln is shot. You have Kennedy was shot in a Lincoln. So it's a Ford thread that runs through it. And here we are in another part of the Ford thread, and we have a Mustang and a Falcon. So in Aldous Huxley's book, A Brave New World, they worship our Ford. And they also worship the Model T. I find it interesting. It's the Model T, the letter we add to plane to make it planet. So all these things are related. The Ford Mustang, the Falcon, our Ford, the Ford's theater, as I mentioned before. Apollo is a theater, Ford is a theater, Kennedy is a theater. And so we have the 1964 World's Fair as the first time we see the Bell video phone. It's Earth Day. It's a holiday, another doubling of the holiday. So it was the holidays, birthdays. The first unibody car ever, Mustang, and this is a horse, of course. And this is like the Apollo 15 Falcon. It's Jack Nicholson's birthday is April 22nd, the same day, Earth Day. It's a holiday. So we got another birthday. How many birthday clues and holiday clues do you need in this one particular date? And of course, it's the day Dick Nixon dies. And he was the Apollo president for all the launches. Kennedy dreamed of this stuff, but it didn't happen until after he was dead. So Tricky Dick handle all the fakery. So Tricky Dick has his famous first, last, and only Bell video phone call to the moon, where he talks to Neil and Buzz, and he tells them how excited he is that he's the first one to talk to astronauts on the moon. And the whole thing is done, Stanley Kubrick directs it. It's so readily apparent now, it's ridiculous. So Neil Armstrong dies on his 237th day. So Vivian Kubrick is born on the 217th day. She shares her birthday with Neil Armstrong. He's born the same day, the 217th day. He dies the 237th day. So in Stephen King, I'm highlighting the cards clues as we go as well. So Stephen King's book, it was room 217. In Kubrick's movie, it's 237. So Kubrick is asked why he changed it from 217 to 237, and he tells us, well, the the Timberline Lodge, they didn't want anyone to be spooked by room 217, so we changed it to 237. So that turns out is a lie. There's an interview with Jay Weidner where he actually talks about he went out to the hotel, and there's no room 217 or 237. So we know Kubrick intentionally lies in this, just like Hal intentionally lies. And he has to lie because he can't tell you why he really did it. And so we have 237. So what is 237? Okay, so it's the day Neil Armstrong dies. He's born the same 217th day of the year, the same day as Vivian Kubrick, who gets the Bell video phone call from her father on her birthday. So it turns out these three digits were not selected randomly. And I'll explain why. It's 2 teams, primary and secondary, 3 men per team for 7 missions. This is Apollo 11 through 17. So if you take 3 men and the 7 missions, 7 times 3 is 21. So there's 21 astronauts in the primary team, and 3 times 7 for the secondary team is 21 astronauts for the backup team. So this is our cards clue. This is blackjack. It's got 21. And blackjack is Kennedy's riderless horse, so it's all the cards clue also fit into this as well, which I'm not really going to cover totally in this, but so you have 42 total Apollo moon nest. 21 times 2 is 42. So these are all the repeating 42 clues in the movie, and I did not list them all. There's tons of them. So you have 2 times 3 times 7 is 42 total astronauts. Every mission number can be derived with these 3 digits. And I've done it before, and I have it on a piece of paper. I have it somewhere in a document. I couldn't find it today, so I didn't put it. The only number you can't do is 15, or at least I couldn't figure out a way to do it. And it turns out Apollo 15 is the mission that launches on Stanley Kubrick's birthday in 1971. This is the exact day, date, and year that Diane Arbus slits her wrist in the bathtub, just like the old lady in the movie The Shining. And she dies. So Apollo 15 launches July 26, 1971, Stanley Kubrick's birthday. Diane Arbus dies that day. So we have a ping pong date, birthday, death day. And we also have the launch day. So you could say Apollo 15 was born July 26, 1971, Kubrick's birthday. And Diane Arbus dies. She takes the very famous Arbus twins picture, where they're the Jungian polar opposites, one smiling, one's frowning. So these are mirrored in The Shining. We have the Burns twins, one smiling. It's almost a direct copy of her picture, for God's sake. So we're being clued into Diane Arbus, and she shares her birthday with she shares a death day with Kubrick's birthday. So this is a ping pong match with her. Now, I also wanted to mention, let's bring this into 2017. You have Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad. And people have been drawing all kinds of parallels to Breaking Bad. Well, the reason they're doing that is because Bryan Cranston was born on July 26. So he shares a birthday, Bryan Cranston was born March 7th, which is the death day of Stanley Kubrick. So Bryan Cranston is a ping pong partner with Stanley Kubrick. So, that's a really good date to have if you're an actor, because everybody's going to want to connect to that one. So he became really popular when Kubrick died. You're going to see him in a lot of stuff. So he's Breaking Bad. Now, of course, Breaking Bad, he's split into 2 polar opposites. He's got the chemistry teacher that works at the high school, and the guy that cooks up the crystal meth and kills people. So It really fits a little too well. And of course, he works at a car wash in Boulder. I don't know, maybe it's not in Boulder, wherever the hell it is. And his kid is vaccine damaged, for God's sakes. I mean, the movie is just it's ridiculous when you know all the clues and you watch it. And anyway, I'm getting off track here. So it's Mick Jagger's birthday is July 26th, so there's our connection to the Rolling Stones. It's Joe Jackson's birthday. This is Michael Jackson's father. And of course, Michael Jackson is the last moonwalker, the king of pop. Remember, we're playing cards, so we got to find the kings and queens. It turns out Stanley Kubrick was friends with Diane Arbus when he was a very young man, and she taught him stuff about photography. Although I don't think Stanley ever had one teacher. Stanley was learning every day of his life, but he definitely learned things about photography, and maybe things, who knows what Diane Arbus really knew. She hung out with some freaky people, and she was very talented, so you really wonder what kind of tutelage she offered a young Stanley Kubrick. Then you have the Mick Jagger fur collar photograph that we see Johnny Malkovich mirroring in some photos. And Mick Jagger's mirroring Admiral Byrd's jacket is basically what he's doing. So you got Mick Jagger is mirroring Admiral Byrd. Johnny, he's Johnny Malkovich. He's one of the Johnnies. Johnny Malkovich, Color Me Kubrick, is mirroring Mick Jagger. And of course, this famous Mick Jagger picture was taken by Diane Arbus. So, it's really clever. Gotta love Johnny Malkovich. And the movie, I think the movie was Fur. So we have a theme of hair, and how does it look? And he goes, oh, it looks pretty hairy. And they had the redheads and the muffly merkin. So we have the fur, the hair, the sea hair rock. Kubrick talks about his ESP cats don't like to have their hair balls combed. And you have the two Playboy models with the ball-shaped afro hairdos. So fur and hair and balls and all that are all another category, a very bizarre one. July 4th is the date of the Overlook Ball that we see Jack Nicholson in the final shot. I love the fact that they call that photo the final shot, because you got the moon shots and the moonshine and the final shot. Anyway, so July 4th is the date of the Overlook Ball. July 4th is the date of Lou Gehrig's famous luckiest man alive speech. The first man to get Lou Gehrig's disease. So Lou Gehrig's is a eugenics disease. There's no doubt in my mind now. And so it turns out, July 4th is the birthday of your country. So, it's a holiday. Yep, it's a holiday. So it fits there, and it's a birthday of your country. So it's a doublet. So when we see doublet crater, this is a crater we see on, I think it's Apollo 15. We see doublet crater and triplet crater. So doublets and triplets are Lewis Carroll. You're making pairs and triplets of things. So in this particular one, it's a birthday and it's a holiday. So that's pretty clever. And so this is the Overlook Ball. Once again, we have the balls category is coming through. You can see some of the other categories come through as you do this. And Overlook, I'm going to get into this later. I'm not going to do it now right now. All right, so we notice a pattern of holidays are being used. We notice a pattern of birthdays are being used. We notice a pattern of death days. Diane Arbus dies July 26, 1971. Apollo 15 launches on Stanley's 43rd birthday. And we also notice, which we haven't gotten to yet, but as we go on to this, we'll notice that release dates are being used like birthdays. So if you think about a release date for a movie, it's really its birthday. It's the first day that anyone ever saw the movie. And so Kubrick is using the release days as birthdays. And this makes sense now because we know that he chopped his family up and stacked them neatly. So these are the birthdays of his family, his movie's release dates. And also we notice a recurring theme of first. So we have the first Bell video phone was used at the World's Fair. We have Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. We have Christopher Clavius establishes the first Gregorian calendar ever based on the heliocentric, Apollo-centric model with leap year. So then we go down. Now it starts getting uncanny. After you see enough of these, you're like, whoa, wait a second. So Danny Lloyd is born on New Year's Day, 1/1. So he wears so you got the Apollo sweater, and he's born on 1/1. Let me think now. So it's the first day of the year, okay? So, and it's a holiday, so bada bing. And of course, what we do once we find these holidays, and I'm just going to give you a glimpse of what you do when you find the holidays. Think of famous people and New Year's, and you're going to come up with Dick Clark. And Dick Clark is always the guy on New Year's. Well, I don't think he does it anymore. I think he died, but anyway, maybe he didn't. I don't know. They kept him going. I mean, the guy he was like 114 or something, the last one. So Dick Clark is there when the ball drops. So Kubrick gave you New Year's because that's when the ball drops, and he was waiting for the ball to drop. And he gives you Dorian Harewood. So an 8-ball. An 8-ball is the black ball in billiards. So Kubrick got blackballed. They realized that he was up to something. So Kubrick gets blackballed. And these are some of the balls I haven't really talked about in previous videos, but Kubrick got blackballed. And he gives you two different billiard tables in The Shining, and he gives you 8-ball, and he gives you billiards in Eyes Wide Shut, and I'm just knocking some balls around. And so the balls category extends to this as well. So it's the first day of the year, and of course it's another clue into the different calendars. The Gregorian versus Julian. They're gonna differ. One's based on the lunar cycle, which really makes sense. If the problem with the Julian calendar is it makes too much sense. It's too easy to understand. You look at the sky and like, wow, that's the same thing it did last month. You realize that, oh wow, this thing's just repeating over and over like a record. There's no variation. So it was too obvious. So what they do is they create this ridiculous Gregorian calendar. Oh, they're gonna have leap year every 4 years. And then if you touch your toes and rub your belly, then it'll be every 9 years after that. It's just like, stop it. We already had a calendar that worked. So this was just really a way to just convolute it. I think really, make it more ridiculous. And so that's why he gives you one small step, one giant leap, because it's a total leap of shit, is what it is. So Danny Lloyd's born on New Year's Day. He wears the Apollo sweater. So then we look at, so once we're given a date, so in this case it's 1/1. So we have to find who are the people, the most Jungian famous people, good or bad, that are born on 1/1. And we find out Betsy Ross is born on 1/1. So why is Johnny Malkovich posting in front of, dressed as a woman in front of the flag, mimicking a famous photo of this woman with the flag? Because it's Betsy Ross's flag, and it's got the 6 out of 7 stripes. We've got J.D. Salinger. So Wendy reads Catcher in the Rye in The Shining, and it's Salinger's first book, of course, and it's published July 16th, 1951. So July 16th is the liftoff date of Apollo 11. So Danny is born on 1/1. He wears the Apollo sweater. We got the Apollo 11. It's J.D. Salinger's first book. It's published July 16th, the date the Apollo 11 launches. Wendy's reading Catcher in the Rye. So rye can be a whiskey. Rye can be a bread. You can have a slice of bread. You can have a moonshot of rye whiskey. So Earth Day is April 22nd. Jack Nicholson's birthday is Earth Day. It's Robert Oppenheimer's birthday is Earth Day. And we have the I Am Become Death helmet in Full Metal Jacket that Adam Baldwin wears. And it's also Cheryl Lee's birthday. She's in Vampires. And she's also, let me just put it in here so we can have it. She's the homecoming queen in Twin Peaks. So she's a queen. So Cheryl Lee, we had a Lee category. We had Hammer Films, Christopher Lee, and Lee Ermey, and the General Lee. And now we have Cheryl Lee, the homecoming queen in Twin Peaks, who's also in the movie by John Carpenter, the movie Vampires, starring James Woods, a class of golf clubs. Now, let's move on. So April 22nd is the day the World Fair opens. It makes sense now. It's Earth Day, so they opened it on Earth Day. Hello. It's the birthday of the Ford Falcon and the Ford Mustang. So the Ford Mustang did not exist before April 22nd, 1964. So this is a big deal in the car world. A lot of, you go to a car show and when was the Mustang born? They all know it's April 22nd, 1964. And it wasn't a fully 1964 Mustang. It was a 1964 and a half. So like I said before, Kubrick will always try to sneak in the half any way he can. It's a 50-cent piece. It's a half a dollar. It's the half man, half bull, the Minotaur, or it's a 1964 and a half Mustang, or it's Matthew Modine. Half these Goukors are Vietnamese spies, and the other half have TB. So make sure they cough before you fuck them. He's just giving you half again. That's all that was really about. And of course, he gives you tuberculosis, which of course F.O. Stanley, who is F.E. Stanley's brother, suffered from tuberculosis. So that's the two twins that established the Stanley Hotel, which is the hotel that Stephen King stays in when he writes the book The Shining. And people, it kills me. Somebody told me the other day, "Oh, you don't do any research." Anyway, Nixon dies April 22nd. So this April 22nd date is ridiculous. It's all these people. It's a holiday that matches. It's birthdays. So let's see here. So the Bell Videophone, we see the Bell Videophone for the first time at the World's Fair, 1964 World's Fair. So we have Dr. Floyd, who's Billy Sylvester. Sylvester is a Looney Tune, by the way. And Billy is a type of goat. You can have a Billy goat, or you can have a sheep. So you can have Billy Shepherd, Billy Shears, and Billy Goat, Billy the Kid, Billie Jean King, Billy Bibbit. All right, let me get off Billy's. So she calls her father her father calls her from the space station. Dr. Floyd calls her on her birthday. So once again, we've got another birthday clue. So that's about 13 of them so far. And she also she shares a birthday with Neil Armstrong. So the reason she's in 2001: A Space Odyssey is she shares a birthday with the man that's going to land on the moon. It's going to be the first man to walk on the moon, the first moonwalker. So Neil Armstrong dies on the 237th day of the year. We have room 217 in the book, room 237 in the movie. So it's a direct match to these two dates of Neil Armstrong. The first day at the Overlook is October 31st, Halloween Day. It's also Michael Collins' birthday is October 31st, and it's also his daughter's birthday, October 31st. So we have a double October 31st in the Collins family. So Michael Collins is the guy he's the captain of Apollo 11. So he never lands on the surface. He flies around he doesn't really fly anywhere. He flies around in his fucking bathroom playing with himself. That's all he really does. So anyway, he's the captain. And so it's Halloween Day. So we're doing slices, remember. Slice in golf, slice in tennis, slice in ping pong. So you have the slice of the jack-o'-lantern. So if you look at Billy McNeil's poster of all things Jack Nicholson, you'll notice there's a jack-o'-lantern in there. And of course, part of the jack-o'-lantern is Jackie O. I don't think all you have to do is Jackie, right? Jackie O. So you have Jackie O. Lantern. I think Jackie O. I think she got pretty pissed when they killed her husband. I think she did things behind the scenes. That would be my guess, but I don't know. So you get the jack-o'-lantern, and it's a slice of pumpkin pie, just like in Twin Peaks. You got a slice of apple pie. You got a slice of the azimuth equidistant map. You got a slice of the UN flat Earth map with a laurel corona. So you got a slice of Van Gogh's ear. In Eyes Wide Shut, Nicole Kidman is wrapping a Christmas present for her husband, Tom Cruise, missile, and it's a book on Van Gogh. So Van Gogh is a redhead. He's a painter. We're using paintings and artwork, handmade things. So he's a painter, and he's from the Netherlands. Hang on, we're gonna. I didn't want to do this, but we're gonna do it anyway. All right, we're gonna shift gears for 1 second. We're gonna do a search. This is the master document. So if you remember, this is, you really have to know the Apollo history to understand this. But so we gave some petrified wood to the Netherlands. So remember, wood is a category. Well, Elm Street and James Woods, Woody Strode, and Woody Allen. So we gave a petrified wood rock to the Netherlands. Okay. Oh, come on. Hang on 1 second. This got to be. Okay, here we go. We got Parkland Hospital. You have Michael Jackson's Neverland. We have Admiral Byrd's Birdland, Queen Maud's Land, Disney's Wonderland. I'm sorry, the Wonderland School in Laurel Canyon. If you worked at Lookout Labs in Laurel Canyon, your children went to school at the Wonderland School at the exact same complex. It was like a little bit down the road. So you were watched like a hawk if you worked at Lookout Labs. Your kids were watched. So you have the Wonderland School in Laurel Canyon and the Lookout Labs. You have Alice in Wonderland. What a strange coincidence. The Wonderland School and Alice in Wonderland. You have Alice Harford in Eyes Wide Shut. Isn't that strange? And of course you have Never Neverland. And of course you have the Netherlands. And also you have Peter Falkland. Peter Falk is a one-eyed detective. It was very famous in the United States. It was a TV show. So Peter Falk. He's in that poster by Billy McNeil. I think he's in there. And I was like, why is Peter Falk in here? He's not a Johnny, but he's a one-eyed Jack. So Peter Falk has one eye. He wore a prosthetic eye. And so you have Falk. And once you find the lands category, and of course the other ones, you have Scotland and Ireland. So these are all the countries. He's going to be giving you people from each one of these countries in his puzzle. And like the Italian would be, the Italian is Rocky, so he points you to Garrett Brown and the movie Rocky, and Sylvester Stallone, a Looney Tune. And he's the Italian stallion, a horse, just like the Mare and the stallion, and the colt and the filly. So this is the lands. I've showed that before, but I wanted to show it right there because we were right in the middle of a lands one with Van Gogh's ear. So it's a slice of Van Gogh's ear. And he's from the Netherlands. And he's a redhead, and he's an artist. So it hits so many categories with one person. And of course, it's the fake, petrified slice of a moon rock. It's a slice of a petrified moon rock. It's just genius. I mean, I don't know how, I don't know how he did it. Anyway, so where was I on this? So you have doublets and triplets. We did that already. April 22nd we did. So the first day at the Overlook is October 31st. You got Michael Collins. So Michael Collins, his family distills a whiskey called Michael Collins. Wow, isn't that amazing? So you have the moonshots and the moonshine and the barrels of whiskey. So you can have double barrel whiskey or you can have single barrel whiskey. You can have a Catcher in the Rye whiskey. You can have Jack drinks Jack Daniels, a bourbon whiskey founded by Tennessee moonshiners. So you have the moonshots and the moonshiners, and it's old number 7. And of course, there were 7 Apollo missions, 11 through 17. Apollo 13 fails to land. Jack spills bourbon and advocat. Or he gets bourbon and advocat spilled on him. You got Hair of the Dog, Lord, Hair of the Dog. So this is a connection to Nazareth, Hair of the Dog, and Nazareth, Snakes and Ladders, and the Sidewinder Snake that's on the album cover. You have Budweiser beer and Eyes Wide Shut. Tom Cruise drinks Budweiser beer. Budweiser beer is the king of beers. So we're being clued into the king of beers, and of course the Clydesdale horses. So you have the moonshots, the moonshine, the king of beers, so this is your connection to barrels. I said before, there's a barrel of monkey, a barrel of oil, a barrel distortion of fisheye lens. And of course in whiskeys you have 12 and 24 year olds, so this fits our 12, 24, 42. 12, 21, 24, 42 mirroring palindrome numbers. This is when it starts to get really interesting. World Autism Day is a holiday. It's April 2nd. And it turns out this is the release date of 2001: A Space Odyssey is April 2nd. So you got April 2nd is 4-2. 4-2 is, you got Jack. There's so many 42s in this puzzle. I'm only going to list a few of them, but you got Jackie Robinson, number 42. He was signed at 42. He wins Rookie of the Year at 42. So he's a triplet, 42. You got the Summer of 42 movie. We see it at 24 minutes in The Shining. Exactly at 24 minutes we see the movie. There's 42 cars in the Overlook parking lot, and that does not include the snow cat or snow track because it's not a car. There's 42 bat swings when he does, and Jack keeps telling her, stop swinging the bat when he starts. So these are the swinger category. I talked before about JFK was a swinger, LBJ was a swinger, Mrs. Linden's a swinger, Marie Windsor's a swinger. You've got the astronauts swung on cables when they were faking the moon missions. You've got Foucault's pendulum swings. You've got the cuckoo clock pendulum swings. You've got, oh God, I'm losing it now. Swinger. Oh, of course, you got the swinging. You've got Alan Shepard's famous swing, his number 6 iron shot on the moon. It was a slice. So he swung his golf club. So Billie Jean King swings a racket. I'm not going to go into all these, but Jackie Robinson was signed at. I already did the Jackie Robinson one there. And also Jackie Robinson is genius because Jackie Robinson is a connection to 42, but also Jackie Robinson Day is a holiday, April 15th. So this is how we derive April 15th, which is of course the day the Titanic sinks. So Wendy says, like a ghost ship. So we have like a ghost ship and April 15th, it's not too hard. Lincoln dies on April 15th in the Ford's Theater. Once again, we have a connection to Ford again. It's IRS tax day. Your money's no good here. Orders from the house. This is a connection to Jack at the Bar, where he has the money that's actually backed by real metals, and Lloyd tells him, no, your money's not good here anymore because it's not backed by metals anymore. Sir Alec Guinness dies on 4/2. So this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Jedi Knight. So he's a Jedi Knight in the movie. In reality, he's Sir Alec Guinness. He was knighted by the Queen. He's a double knight. This is a chess piece. We're not playing cards here. We're not playing ping pong. We're playing chess. So 4/2 is a chess move. Call me crazy, but 4/2 is a connection that World Autism Day is April 2nd. So that's how this puzzle works. And we're pointed to this because Apollo is the bringer of plagues. He's like a eugenicist for the gods. So, so in the movie Star Wars, we have the Millennium Falcon. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So we already had the Falcon for the Apollo 15 Falcon, which is the mission that launches on Stanley's 43rd birthday. And, have the light side and the dark side, the two Jungian polar opposites, light and dark, just like the light and dark side of the moon. So Luke gets to make the choice. And, sometimes they go to the light, sometimes they go to the dark. You have Darth Vader. And, the lightsaber. The lightsaber that's used in Star Wars was done by using 3M Scotchlite screen material. They wrapped it around the lightsaber, and then they would shine the light on it, and since it reflects light from every angle, it looks like it's on fire. So I find it interesting that they used 3M Scotchlite screen material to fake the Apollo missions, and they used it in the lightsaber. However vast the darkness, we must supply our own lightsaber. And also, the camera that films A Man Who Would Be King is the same camera that films Star Wars. So we have connections into White Man's Burden, Lloyd, White Man's Burden, and which is a Rudyard Kipling creation about imperialism, and of course, Rudyard Kipling's connection to A Man Who Would Be King. So it's a roundabout connection to connect all of this together in one big glob. So we have Christmas in Eyes Wide Shut, and he gives you the gold foil wrapped Apollo moon missions. You know, they're, I mean, that's the best way to think about it. We have the Genesis rock on Apollo 15, and Genesis was the first day. Like I said, it's always the first. And then Genesis is read live on television on Christmas Eve during Apollo 8. So we have a pair of Genesises. We have the Genesis rock, a biblical connection. The Genesis passage is read on Christmas. So we have a holiday, you know. So we've got the holiday, we've got the first day ever. And then we have the Adams probe in Clockwork Orange. And we have the extravehicular activity. Eva would be Eve, Adam and Eve. And Genesis and the Genesis rock. You know, that's pretty interesting. And also we have the Apollo simulation project. So we have the snake in the Garden of Eden. And Lee Ermey says, you could suck a golf ball through a garden hose. So we have connections into Laurel Gardens was the location for the Walter Cartier fight. So we have a garden connection there. We have a garden and a golf ball and a garden hose. So we have garden in here. And Adam, Eve, the garden, the asp, Genesis, you know. So there's a lot of biblical connections that he's hidden in. And they're woven together. You have Adam Baldwin, you know, Animal Mother. You have Ken Adams. So when I say there's an Adams clue, I'm not usually talking there's one. I may put one, but there are more that go with it. You also have The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Oh God, I can't even think of his name now. It's Adams, Adam something. So Adams is repeated over and over. And the Adams probe, you know, it's the lowest production height car ever. So it's the flattest car ever. And the extravehicular activity, you know, is Eva. What was the other one? Oh, Barbara Eden. She was in a TV show about the astronauts. And Barbara's is a category, which I haven't listed them yet because it's not really that large yet. But you had, you know, Barbara Bush and Barbara Eden, and Barbara was Stanley's sister. So these are all, you know, clues into Genesis, Adam and Eve, the snake, the Garden of Eden, the first day, Genesis, and you know, it's the first day. It's always the first. So Jack reads the New Year's edition of Playgirl in the movie The Shining. So there's our connection to the bunny hoppers, you know, the moon mission bunny hoppers. The first Playboy model was Marilyn Monroe. And we're using Jackson here. So we have Jack Nicholson, we have Dorian Harewood, Crazy as a March Hare is uttered by Peter Sellers. You have Jack Elam, a one-eyed drunk. And with his last name is Male. So Jack is a male rabbit. A hare is a female rabbit. And of course, Dorian Harewood's nickname is Jungle Bunny. So we have the bunny, we have the Harewood, so he's a black bunny. So we're going to follow wherever Dorian Harewood goes. We're going to follow where he jumps. So he's a jump off point. If we don't take a small step. If we're going to take a giant leap, we need to find out where Dorian Harewood goes, or need to research Dorian Harewood. I have not done either one of those yet, but I'm telling you, he's going to jump into something else, and it will be alchemical, and it will be using the same language. So they're all Playboy bunnies. You know, you have the Playboy mission logs in the Apollo 12 logs that they actually had on the moon had Playboy bunnies in them. And these are connections to Lewis Carroll, and we have to follow the white rabbit down the rabbit hole. And of course, Marilyn Monroe was the first Playboy model. So we have in Full Metal Jacket, we have Blue Balls, Crabs, and The 7-Year Itch. The 7-Year Itch is Marilyn Monroe's movie about married couples. After 7 years, they get the itch. And of course, she's the first Queen of the Artichoke for California. I didn't put first, but she was the first. And of course, Artichoke is a direct connection to MK Ultra, and also had a different name. It had multiple names, Project Artichoke. So I have a feeling that Marilyn Monroe was one of the first Project Artichoke graduates. In Full Metal Jacket, they are talking about the Vietnamese New Year. Well, the Vietnamese New Year is based on the lunar calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. It's based on the lunar calendar. Now, if we go back to the top, well, I'm not going to do it right now, but if we went back to the top, we would see the beginning of this puzzle begins with the Gregorian and the Julian calendar, just like Julian Lenin. So I find it interesting that Kubrick includes the Vietnamese, the Tet Offensive was slated to happen on the Vietnamese New Year, and they based it on the lunar calendar. So they were not, the people not really using in Vietnam were not using this calendar. So I find that interesting. And of course, if you're Vietnamese and it's the New Year, it's the first day of your year. So, also, the Christmas holiday, we're given an Eyes Wide Shut. It's a double holiday because, yes, it's Christmas, but it's also Jesus' birthday. So, can we slam that down with a sledgehammer, the bone? Can we take a bone weapon and slam that one down? Well, we have Full Metal Jacket. He sings "Happy Birthday, Dear Jesus," and they sing it and they march in the platoon. The platoon marches around in the barracks singing "Happy Birthday, Dear Jesus." And he says, "You can give your heart to Jesus, but your ass belongs to the Corps." And so that's a smattering, of birthdays and holidays. This is how he's communicating a lot of this stuff to us. It's repetition. I will post this entire document and I'll update it because there's a lot of things. I sat here before I made the video and I'm typing this thing, and as I'm typing, I'm like, oh, I can add that, and I can add this, and I can add that, and before you know it, it was like it was getting too big, and I wanted to keep it as concise as possible, but it gives you an idea of how this thing works. We're using birthdays, holidays, red letter days, the day the first man landed on the moon, who was the first man to the South Pole, and when did he land, and what was his birthday, and that's how this puzzle works, the Jungian archetypes. It's full of stars, and that's it. And I wanted to put a shout out to, I was on a different site. This was the coolest thing the other day. I was on a different site commenting on, I think it was one of the fake shootings or something. I don't even remember now what the hell it was. And I'm on there commenting, and somebody sends me a comment back, and it was Flat Earth Norway. And they're like, "I like your Kubrick series." And I was like, yes! It was like somebody out there knew who I wasn't on my site. I wasn't commenting on my site. I was on somebody else's freaking site, on some other thing. And somebody said, "Yeah, it's One-Eyed Jacks." And so I wanted to send a shout out to Flat Earth Norway. Thank you. You made my day. And that's it, guys. I know this isn't as fun as watching all the video clips and stuff, but if you haven't watched this video series and paid attention through all of them, this isn't going to make any sense to you at all. You're going to think I'm probably loony as a fruitcake. But if you have watched the video series and you have taken notes, you will understand what I'm showing you here of the repetition of birthdays and holidays and how this thing fits together. Christmas is Jesus' birthday. And that's it, guys. Have a great night. And I'm finally done with the big project I was working on, so I'm hopefully going to have some more time to do some more videos. And I've got tons of material. I haven't even typed it yet. It's like Wendy says in The Shining. She says, "Oh, it's just a matter of settling in, writing every day or something." She says something like that. I forget exactly how she says it. And then Jack gives her a real smart ass look, and he goes, "Yep, that's all it is." But that's all it is. I just got to type the crap out and figure it out. And have a great night, guys. Peace. Carpe diem.
Let's see, where were we? I was, about to explain that our season here runs from May 15th to October 30th. Then we close down completely until the following May. Keep the road to Sidewinder open. People in Denver recommended Jack very highly, and for once, I agree with them. Keep the road to Sidewinder open. It's a 25-mile stretch of road. Gets